again. Um, Patrick Minear with Golden Path Solutions will be the presenter, and he's got a lot of great information to share with you about Compass. So even if you have used Compass before and you think you know all it has to offer, he's going to surprise you today because he's always adding more. And if there are any questions before we get started, you can pop them into the chat. And as we go along today, I'll be monitoring the chat and I'll answer any questions that I can answer. And Patrick will ask me to wave my hands and get his attention if there are questions that he might address. But just keep your questions in the chat and we'll get to them either during the session today or we'll respond to them afterwards so we can make sure that everyone's questions are answered. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Patrick.
Can everybody hear me okay? Hear me, Laura? Okay, yes. Perfect. So good to see everybody. And a lot of you have been through our training before, and a lot of you I know, so it's good to see some familiar faces. But yeah, for the next hour, we're basically going to be going through Compass, really focusing in on the student experience and the educator experience. So what are the things that the student sees, and what are the things that you all see? I am going to spend a little bit of time just talking about kind of Golden Path at a higher level in our methodology. Again, a lot of you have maybe heard that before, but I think it might be a good place to start for some of the new folks on the call. And then also I want to wrap up by providing some real tangible use cases on how all of this stuff can be used. As we've been doing work in the state, we know where there are certain areas where Compass can really help. And then, like Laura said, there's a lot of things that we are working on that we're going to be releasing soon that I'll talk about at the end of the presentation. If there are any questions, please raise your hand or put them in the chat. And then Laura is top of my little video thing. So Laura can also raise her hand, or she can wave or scream or do whatever Laura does. So. Okay, so real quick, just a little bit about Golden Path Solutions. And what we do. So there's a lot of different things that we are trying to solve for you all, and especially across different roles. A lot of times how I describe Golden Path is we are a connections company. We are really trying to drive connections between you all and employers, give your students a great career insight, but also connect them to the employers that are looking for their skills. We are now getting more involved in highlighting college programs that students might be a good fit for, and also highlighting the employers that work with those colleges. So trying to connect post-secondary with employers. And then finally, we are trying to really use community entities as a way to drive a lot of this. So working with local chambers, local EDCs and all that. But essentially, all of those different folks have logins to Compass. Part of what we're trying to do is we want to provide a way to capture a student's four-year rolling plan. So that is a requirement for DPI with Choice Ready. And DPI has recommended Compass be used for that. The benefit of that is once we have the student's four-year rolling plan, we can use their classes, their activities, all the things that they are planning on doing throughout high school. And we can use that to match students to careers. We can use that to match students to employers, to work-based learning opportunities, even events and college programs. So there's kind of a double benefit there. We also want to highlight all the employers that are doing amazing work with you. We have systems to manage work-based learning processes. Job shadowing is something that we've just released. And a quick kudos to Paul Zettler and the Grand Forks team that are on the call. They helped really kind of flush that out for North Dakota. And those things are now available to all schools. So that's been turned on for everyone. So we can talk a little bit about that. I might not go as deep into work-based learning. There's a separate training track for that, but we'll touch on it at a very high level. And we're also building ways to help you all get events out to employers. So career fairs, guest speaking requests, mock interviews, all that sort of thing. And I'll share a little bit about what's coming with that. Right now, we have about 18,000 active North Dakota student accounts, meaning students that are currently in middle school or high school. We have close to 700 employers now that are in Compass sharing their information with different schools. We have quite a few of you that are probably receiving emails from us when new opportunities come through. But all in all, we have a pretty good footprint of activity, and we're starting to do a little bit more work around like what do we do with all that data and how do we leverage that? And we'll talk a little bit about that in terms of what's coming. We are available to all high schools and middle schools, public and private. So you all would have access to this, funded through CTE. And recently, we just announced a grant that we received with the North Dakota University System. So all 11 post-secondary colleges will also have access to Compass, both promoting their programs with high school students, but also leveraging for their own students if they want. So that's pretty exciting, and that's going to lead to some cool opportunities, I think, in terms of data and following the student from high school into college for the ones that stay in North Dakota. And like I mentioned, we are really trying to drive partnerships between local communities, chambers of commerce, economic development. So in Fargo, we're actually working very closely with the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber. We have similar conversations going on in Bismarck and Devils Lake, Watford City, Williston, Grand Forks. So that's been awesome. And it's great to have those partnerships to really help get more employers involved and ultimately drive more connections for you all and also more work-based learning opportunities for our students. So real quick, before I get into the guts of this, if you all want to follow along, you can open up, there's a couple different ways to do that if you want to open up multiple browsers. I will be talking first about the student experience. And so if you have access to the Pro Center, you can go into that, click on Demo Account, and you can follow along as a student. You won't be able to put information into your Compass profile and have it save, but you will be able to see the interface and the experience that the student will see. And then also we will talk a little bit about the Pro Center and the Compass Console, which a lot of you are familiar with. To get there, just go to the Work-Based Learning tab, click on the Compass Console tab, and then the Compass Console button. And so as I go through these slides, I'll talk a little bit. I'll use the slides to guide the conversation, but I will jump into live demos for both of these just to kind of reinforce what we're talking about. I mentioned a little bit before, I'll cover this super quick. There are several different entities that log into Compass. So employers are logging into Compass. You all are logging into Compass through the Pro Center. Students are logging into Compass through Are You Ready? Colleges are logging directly into Compass. And we also now have communities that can log into Compass and promote the things that they're doing. But essentially, we have a lot of different audiences, which makes our life kind of interesting. But we are also trying to make sure that each of these audiences are getting value from Compass, which we think will drive more usage and more adoption. We will be focusing again on this training on the Pro Center login for you and the Are You Ready login for students. I will not focus very much on the employer login, but if anybody wants to go deeper into that or see what they see, let me know and we can schedule some separate time. And you all have probably seen me present on this slide. You probably have versions of this yourselves, how students learn about their skills and identify careers. This is really what we're trying to do in Compass. So when a student is maybe earlier in their high school career or maybe even middle school, they're doing a lot of awareness activities. Like, what are the things that I'm good at? What are the careers that I might be interested in? They might be doing that in Compass by looking at our career profiles and employers. They might be doing that with the Be More Colorful Career View XR experiences. They might be doing that within Are You Ready and the generic links that they have to the ONET database. There's a lot of different things that students are using to see what's out there. We really want to focus on that local employer and that local career in addition to supporting kind of that generic career exploration. Part of our hope there is when a student finds something that they like or a company or a career that they think is interesting, that leads to the next stage, which is career exposure. A lot of times that might be at a career fair or Workforce Wednesdays is something that a lot of companies have or a lot of schools are doing. Maybe a company is coming in and speaking to a classroom of students. But what we want to do there is we want to help facilitate you all being able to connect to those employers. And I'll show you where you can see the employer database. You can even add your own employers and invite them to the account if you'd like. But our hope there is that the student is getting to know a little bit more about an employer, and that might lead to the next stage, which is career engagement. That's where the student is actually having a real experience with an employer, It could be a job shadow. It could be work-based learning, a cooperative work experience, an internship, a summer job. Really getting a sense of the culture, starting to build relationships, seeing if this is something that I really want to do. And that hopefully leads then to the student making better decisions when they're graduating. Either I know that I like this industry, so I want to pursue it. So I'm going to go on a track, a post-secondary track to that industry. Some students may start working for a company right away and then pursue education after a year or two. We want to help facilitate companies that are willing to help pay for a student's tuition. We call those sponsorships. And we're also going to be getting more involved in apprenticeships and even the military as a career track. We're working with the Army National Guard and the Air National Guard to get them in Compass for students that want to pursue that track. So a lot of this obviously is in conjunction with you all on the phone. Some of you are doing career advising for students, so you might be more in that awareness and career exposure part of the process. Some of you are work-based learning coordinators, and so you might be using more of the WBL functionality and the career engagement pieces. We really actually want to try to get teachers more involved in this overall process. How do they, when they're teaching ag or computer science or marketing, how do we get them connected into this and get them connected with real employers? I want to give a shout out. I think some folks from the Cass County are on the phone. They're going to be doing more work to try to get teachers involved in this process and go through some of this training so that CTE teachers understand all of the resources that are available to them. And what better time for a student to explore some of these actual employers than when they're actually learning the content and the curriculum that they're being taught. So with that, I'm going to start talking a little bit about the student experience. And I apologize for some of you that have been through this training a few times. This might be a little repetitive. I'll try to punch through this pretty quickly. But basically, for a student to get to Compass, once they are in Are You Ready? There is a new homepage design. They will just click on Go to your Compass profile. And again, you all can do this. If you go to the Pro Center, launch your demo account, which is going to be on the right side of the screen, and then you can just follow along and go to your Compass profile. And what we do is in the Compass profile, there are several things that a student can do. And I'm going to start talking about the profile, the student's profile. This is the part that also can serve as the 4-year rolling plan to meet choice ready requirements for DPI. The student can put in classes, they put in activities, they put in hobbies, they take a personality assessment, and they can answer certain questions. And essentially what we do is we use that to generate a student's Holland codes. Basically, what are the things that they are interested in? What are the types of jobs that they are a good fit for? We basically use the Holland codes to match the student to careers, and that's how a lot of the matching algorithm within Compass works. Not to go into too much detail, but an example of that is if a student is taking an interest inventory and they answer yes to I like to build kitchen cabinets, the equivalent of that in Compass would be the student saying that I do whittling as a hobby, or I was in scouting, or I took a woods class and I liked it. Those are the types of things that we use to generate the students' Holland codes. This is an example of the class list. So the student basically starts with a blank screen and they click Add New, and they can add classes. They can choose by subject. They can type in the class activities and the names, and then we find matches. They can sort by grade. And what we've done, a lot of you know this, but we've loaded in your school's class list into Compass, and there's also a way for you to manage it yourself, and I'll show you a slide on that a little bit later. But essentially what we want is the student to see the classes they're familiar with. They can put in whether or not they liked a class for the things that they've taken, and for the ones that are in the future, they can leave that blank. We recommend the student update this, once or twice a year. So the first time probably takes the most time. But the cool thing is, again, we can then use all this information to match the student to different opportunities. When they finish the profile, they can go into their results and see their Holland codes. If any of you are not using Compass as the 4-year rolling plan, so you're not having students do the profile, that's cool, because we will allow you to put in the Holland codes that we can still use for matching. So if you're using a different assessment or the strong interest inventory or the interest profiler within Are You Ready, you can take the Holland codes and you can put them into Compass, and we can use that for matching too. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a sec. So when you first open up the Opportunities tab, if you all want to check that out, we start on the career profiles piece. That is essentially what we really want students to know is what are the careers that you're a good fit for? The student can see if they're a match. They can see a little bit more about the opportunity, like where is it located? Is there an offering? Is there a sponsorship, or is it a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree? And there are filters for all of these. So the student can quickly narrow down and see, show me the manufacturing opportunities that require a 2-year degree that are within 100 miles of my zip code, and we will show them the things that match that. Similarly, for employers that are sharing information with students, we can help the student understand what does that employer do? Like where are they located? What is their culture? There's actually a page that we share that employers are managing that might also include videos or pictures or even links to be more colorful experiences, whatever. And the student can again sort by industry, by career cluster. They can sort by, our companies offering job shadows. Are they offering work-based learning opportunities and all that stuff? This is where we are doing a lot of work with employers directly. And this is also where we are encouraging chambers and different organizations to help us get more opportunities in the system so that there are more opportunities for students. An example of a career profile. So think of a career profile as almost like a template of what a job is, but also how to get there. So this is an example of a company here in Fargo. We've shared this a little bit on some of our newsletters. This looks a little different than what we used to have career profiles. The old ones tended to be very text heavy. So we've gone through and we refactored these based on some of your input, also based on Laura's input. Laura's always giving us great feedback, and also student input. So there's a lot of information. You can see the different subjects on the left that the student can just click on, and we will take them right to that piece of the profile. But they can learn about, what is the job? What does the day in the life look like? What skills do I need? What classes, activities, and hobbies should I do while I'm in high school to help me get ready for this? Or maybe that I've already done and would indicate that I'm a great fit for this. We also can provide links to videos. So we're really encouraging employers to do 1 or 2-minute videos of staff to describe what these jobs are. Very informal, very raw, but actually what we heard from students that they want, not the super produced video. There are also links on the right that will take the student to either that employer organization, maybe to their website, to their social media pages, or even to the corresponding ONET or Career One Stop page that would describe what this is. We always open up a new browser so that the student doesn't lose their place wherever they are. The student can also favorite opportunities if they want. They can print these out. There's a lot of different things that the student can do with these. Students now also can learn about post-secondary programs. So in addition to connecting students to employers, to work-based learning, and to careers, we can now also tell a student if they're a fit for a college or a college program. We will be expanding this list, like I said, to the 11 NDUS schools. I believe we are also going to expand this to the 5 tribal schools. We are talking to the private schools, University of Mary and Jamestown. But essentially here what we do is we help the student understand the programs that these colleges are wanting to promote to students. We can highlight information about the college, their amenities. We can also highlight the employers that are partnering with those organizations, whether they're offering sponsorships, they're providing materials, they've partnered on curriculum. So if a student wanted to start with a college program, I really want to be a diesel tech, they could explore that opportunity at NDSCS. Then on that program page, they could see the employers that are hiring from that program. They can then drill into their information in Compass and also their career profile. So we're trying to give students a way of navigating. If they want to start with the college and the program, they can do that. Or if they want to start with the employer or the career, they can do that too. And we will link those two things together, the college and the employer, which is pretty cool. And I'll show you a quick demo of this. Again, hopefully you all are kind of listening to me, but also maybe following along a little bit in the demo account. So with that, I want to actually go into Are You Ready and just show you a little bit of what I just covered. So I'm going to change my screen. Hopefully I'm still logged in, but this is the landing page for Are You Ready? You all will know to get there through PowerSchool and then the ND education portal. But once you're in Are You Ready? You can just click Go to your Compass profile. The student will get to this landing page. We are exploring a new homepage for the student. We're still fleshing out the details. I don't know that I love this yet, but we're trying to make it a little bit more action driven and a little bit more kind of a one stop for everything. But I'm going to focus still on the original, the current landing page. This is where the student goes and updates their classes, activities, and hobbies. And again, we recommend after they do it one time, really just going in and updating it once or twice. I didn't take that class, or I just finished this one and I really loved it, or I didn't like it very much. They can add new activities that they're in. To add a new activity, class, or hobby, they just click Add New, and they can search by subject. They can type it in, and if they can't find what they're looking for, they can actually tell us about it, and then we will actually get an email, and then we add it to the database so that it's available for everyone else. This is where they do the personality assessment. They can answer additional questions. What are they planning to do after school? Are they looking at going to a 2-year, a 4-year, a certificate, joining the military? And there's some additional questions that they can answer. We're actually looking at how do we take some of this information. I talked a little bit about data, but can we find out, if students are self-identifying as wanting to go to a 2-year school? Can we look at the types of classes that they're into or the employers they're interested in? And how can that help us make better recommendations or different things like that to a student? And if a student, doesn't know yet, they can leave that blank or put in, I'm not sure. And that can be a useful tool for you all. Like, who should we be talking to? All of the information that a student puts in, you have access to when we get to the school administration pieces. When a student wants to explore careers, they can see the career profiles that are here. They can see what's a good fit for them. They can see if there's a career view XR experience. If they want to drill in and learn more about it, they can dive in and they can see if there's any information that's there. We are encouraging employers, like I said, to add pictures and videos. So you can see in this case, Harvestone does not have a lot of content, a lot of pictures or different things there. Whereas Cardinal IG has a little bit more information. They've got some videos that they put in. And that's one way that we keep employers engaged is we continuously ask them, make sure that you update things, make sure you keep it relevant. The more information you have here, the better. For Are You Ready? If they're accessing Are You Ready or the profile within Are You Ready, then you'll notice that the links are along the top versus along the side. So a student can click through and they can quickly click on a link and it takes them right to that section. And they can browse, they can print, they can do whatever they want. They can favorite it. They could even reach out and say that I'm interested in learning more about this. And then you can see all the different links here on the right side. So that's kind of how the career profiles work. If the student wants, they can also learn about the employer. So you all might have gotten an email, some of you this morning, that S&P Health just posted some new work-based learning opportunities. So this is their account. This is where they basically manage all this information. The student can see information about their culture, what makes that a good place to work. What are the connection types that this company is offering? So the student, if you were ever having the student go through and actually find companies that might be willing to do internships or job shadows, you can have students do that by using some of these filters that are here in the filter section. So I could quickly look and see, again, what industry I'm interested in, what career cluster I'm interested in, what are they willing to offer, what are the different options available to the company, and then we provide contact information so the student would know how to get connected. Work-based learning opportunities. If there are work-based learning opportunities available, we have the student, they can click here and we actually take them to the part of Are You Ready? Where those things are listed. Again, these are all coming from employers. I'm not going to go into the detail, but those of you that have been through the work-based learning training, you should recognize this. We also, this is where we show the colleges. We're starting to also highlight events. So if there is an event that an employer is offering, we can help the student understand what that event is and if they're going to manage it. One thing we're working on is if you all are doing a career fair, currently you can post that to an employer. We're working on a way for the employer to register for the event and tell us what jobs they are highlighting. What do they want to talk about? And then in this screen, we'll be able to say to a student, here's the career fair that's going to be next week. Here are the employers that have signed up, and here are the jobs that they are wanting to highlight, and here are the ones that you match. Our goal there is like, how can we help the student laser in on the employer that they should really be talking to because they've got the skills that the employer is looking for. With that, I'm going to pause. I see that there's a question. So Laura, is there a question?
Yes, there is, and it seems like a good time to answer it, or for you to answer it. If you invite a business to an event using Compass, where would we receive their response?
So right now, the current functionality is it's more of a push process where we let you promote the event to the employer, but right now there is not a way for the employer to register within Compass. So when you create the event, what we would recommend is use your current Google Forms or your sign up sheets or whatever it is that you use. You can put that in the event, and the employer will actually get a link in the email they receive saying, click here to register. My hope is that in the next week or two, we will actually have a way for the employer to register in Compass and say, I'm coming, and here are the careers that I want to highlight. And then you would actually receive an email, and you'll be able to see what employers have actually indicated that they want to come. I actually would love, this is a shameless plug for feedback. I would love for some of you, if you are doing a lot of events, I would like to get your input on some features. I don't know if she's on the call, but we had visited with Tracy Kramer from Fargo North, and she actually would rather employers use a separate Google form. So we want to be able to accommodate that for those of you that may not want to use Compass to register, but we want to, first of all, create a way for you to collect registrations if that's useful. But more importantly, we really want to find a way to make sure students know what employers they really should talk to. We actually think that'll eliminate some of that awkwardness that sometimes happens at a career fair. And then also, it gives that student kind of the excuse. I saw that you guys are looking for diesel techs. You need to be good working with your hands. I love my auto tech class. So tell me a little bit more about your company. That's kind of what we're driving to with that. I think I'm going to stop there with the student experience. The last thing I'll just say before I get into the educator experience is you might notice this connect me to employers toggle. If a student wants us to proactively match them to employers, the student can click this. And if they're under 18, we do require parental consent. If they're 18 or over, we don't. But essentially what happens then is we can talk to the student directly and ask, what are they looking for? We can get them connected with employers if the student wants. We are trying to incorporate all of you into that process. So you may have received emails from someone on my team, Derek. Derek, if he reaches out to a student, he's been including a work-based learning coordinator or a career advisor on that email so that you all are aware that we're visiting with the student. And eventually this might be something that we just facilitate with you all, where we would be able to tell you a student has expressed interest in getting connected to an employer, so maybe they should schedule some time with you. Maybe there's a work-based learning opportunity or a career event or something where that student can get more connected to that employer. Okay, I'm going to flip now to the school administrator side. So this is more the things that you all are working on. So again, if you want to follow along with this, you can just click on in the Pro Center, Work-Based Learning tab, Compass Console, and then click on the Compass Console button. And that's going to open a new browser window, which is essentially our way of highlighting functionality for you where we don't have to necessarily do it through Zap. Our development cycles are a little bit different. So the Compass console gives us the ability to kind of turn things around a little bit more quickly. It also facilitates the work we do outside of North Dakota where schools are logging directly into Compass. There is no "Are you ready?" So to speak in those schools. So the first thing is viewing your student data. All of the profile information that a student puts in, their classes, their activities, their hobbies, all of that is available to you as an administrator. So under the My Students section, you will be able to click on a name and it will open a window where you can see what did they put in for classes, for activities, for hobbies, personality. You can even see what companies they match or careers they match. Our hope there is that that can lead to a rich conversation between you and the student. It's also something where eventually we want to be able to provide more data and more reporting to you all so that, for example, let's say you have an employer that's coming and they're doing mock interviews, and let's say it's an egg company. You can use the student's profile data, including what classes they have on their profile, to make sure that you're getting the right students to talk to the right employers if that's what you're after. In this search box here, you can type in whatever text you want, and we will return to you all the students that have that text in their profile. So if you were looking for students that are in robotics, or if you're looking for students that have algebra on their profile, just type those in and then search. And then we will give you the student names, and then you can download that to Excel or do with it whatever you want. We are working on a more advanced search where you might be able to put in specific classes, hobbies, Holland codes, and we'll actually return the students that match that in the best way, which we think could be valuable for a lot of different things for you. You can also click on this button, Export Four-Year Plan Data. That'll actually export columns of data that you can then use to upload into ChoiceReady. Again, if you're using Compass as the four-year plan. So that's the first thing, looking at your student data. The Employer Connections database, this is again where you get to see all of the employers that have opted to share their information with you. You may see employers in this list that your students don't see, because the employer has just really opted to make it visible for you all for connections, but they maybe aren't ready yet to share their employer information with students. With all of these, you can search by employers with career clusters. You can search by industry. You could search by connection type. So if you wanted to quickly figure out who are all of the manufacturers that are willing to do career fairs within 50-mile radius of my school, you can do that. And then you can export that to Excel. And then you could use the emails or the phone numbers or whatever to reach out to different folks. This is also where you can create an employer-facing event, and I'll walk you through that process here in just a bit. Some of you have requested the ability to add your own employers. So we all know that sometimes employers aren't good at getting back to us, or they don't follow through. So if you're talking to an employer, you could either do it real time, or you could do it when you get back in the office. Just click on Add Employer. Put information in. We require phone number, address, an overview if you have it, but you can just type in overview. And then you can actually invite the user to the account. They will get an email, and then they create their account and they're in, and then they can update the account with whatever information they want. We also built that same functionality where you can actually add a work-based learning opportunity on behalf of an employer. I'm not going to show that to you, but that was another request that a few of you had that is now live. So if you have an employer that is willing to do a co-op, but they're just not getting it set up, you can actually do that on behalf of the employer. You can also see all the employer information that your students see. So if you just click on the employer, you will see an overview. You'll see their connection information. You'll see all of that so that you can maybe even use that if you want for students that might not be in Compass, but you still want to use that employer information for whatever reason. We do have a lot of educator tools that are in Compass. So if you go to career exploration, we provide an activity map, suggestions on things that you can do every month from the student being a freshman all the way to when they graduate. We have vetted that with Kelly Pierce and others within CTE to make sure that that kind of aligns to the recommendations that they have. We also have, you can download any career profile that you want. And so part of the benefit there is you can give that to teachers. So maybe a teacher doesn't necessarily need to know all the ins and outs, But if you had, say, a health sciences class that they wanted to highlight 3 or 4 different careers related to the medical industry, they could use the career profiles as real world examples with their students if they wanted to. We do have lesson plans also on how to fill out Compass, how to interpret Holland codes. They're pretty generic, but they might be things that, that you can leverage in a class. And I'll talk to you a little bit about resources here in just a second. Okay, your class list. So for those of you that are using Compass for the 4-year plan, we do have a way for you to update your class list. And hopefully this is not something that needs to be done after you get them loaded in initially. Probably this is going to be updated maybe once a year when you're deciding what classes you're going to offer, which ones maybe you don't have a teacher for, so you don't want students to see them, but you don't want to delete them because you might offer it, the following year. So all you need to do is go to My Class Lists and then open up your class list, and then you will be able to change the name of classes. You'll be able to deactivate classes. You can archive them. You can add credit hours if you want. And if we have credits for your classes, we have a very basic credit calculation where we'll tell you how many credits does a student have for the subject areas. So say English or trades or facts or whatever you're using within the school. You can download all of this information into an Excel spreadsheet, make your changes there, and then upload it. We also try to capture your local class IDs, but also the state MISO3 codes. And one of the benefits there, one of the reasons why DPI is recommending using Compass as the 4-year plan, is we can then start to look at trends across the state. What classes are popular? What classes are students interested in within regions? It's kind of a nice way for even regional views of what's happening in the classrooms and in the schools. And eventually that information might be useful for colleges when they're thinking about their programs, or even, again, going back to chambers and EDCs, if there are ways that we can help them understand, there are fewer students going into health science classes, in the next 2 years than there were in the last 2 years. How does that help you get more employers engaged? Because there's a reason to get them going, because we want students to get interested in those careers. Or for whatever reason, is that graduating class just not going to be interested in those industries? So that maybe then is an impetus for a chamber to start doing recruiting activities or whatever in your local region. So we're trying to find ways of helping use that information, but we also want to make sure that it's appropriate. So anything that we do in terms of sharing data in aggregate at all is always going to get DPI's approval before we do any of that. We do have a class in the North Dakota Education Hub. Some of you may have already taken it, called Managing the 4-Year Rolling Plan in Compass by Golden Path Solutions. That is a very long, not very interesting name, but it does meet the 15-hour requirements for credit with Valley City State. And the benefit is, if you are updating the 4-year plan anyway, it's a great way to get credit for it, because part of the exercises there is to update, the new names or deactivate things or whatever it might be. And I'm going to show you what that looks like here in just a second. I'm going to pause and go into Compass and the Pro Center and show you some of what I just described. And then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about work-based learning and job shadows and events, but I'll kind of keep that at a higher level. So if you want to go into the Pro Center and click on the work-based learning tab, log me out, give me just a second. I'm going to go into a training school, so I'm not showing actual information, it won't do anything by accident, but go to work-based learning and then go to the Compass console. And it should open up a new tab. You're going to see information here. This is going to be your student information. You can drill into those and look at, see what students have filled out, if they put information in or if they haven't. Their last login date, if you want to export data, you just click on the export for your plan data. And if you wanted to do searches for what students have in their profile, you just type in the text you're looking for and hit search. And again, we are working on a more robust searching process that will help do more interesting kind of searches for a combination of classes, activities, hobbies, hauling codes, whatever it might be. If you want to go to My Employers and Employer Connections, this is where we're going to show you all the employers that are in Compass. Each of you are going to see a little bit of a different list because you might have employers that are sharing information with you, but not someone else. But if I click on Lund Oil, this is going to show me all the information that Lund Oil has put into Compass, their careers, their connection types. They don't have any published career profiles yet, but we're working on 3 of them with Lund Oil. You can just see kind of what the student is seeing. And then if you want contact information that's listed here, you can expand that and have email and phone number. And then, like I said, if you wanted to search by, say, manufacturing, and you wanted to see who's willing to do a career fair, that's basically what I've just done. And then I can export this to a spreadsheet. And now I will have all of my company names. I will have the person that is the contact. I will have their email, and I will have their phone number. And we are always working to keep this information up to date. Many of you have probably seen some of our emails and newsletters. What we do is if those bounce back, then we know that we need to find a new point of contact, and then we will work with those employers to get that updated. I mentioned creating events. I'm just going to show this to you at a very high level. So here you just go to My Employers, create employer event. You can put information in about it. The Fargo Career Expo, the North Country or the North Valley Career Expo, whatever it is. You can put in an overview. You can put in a link to the sign up page, and then you can select the employers that you want to invite. In here, you can sort by distance. You could put in the industry or career cluster. When I add them to the list, they will then basically, I can basically then go back, and when I send this out, when I submit this, there's an approval process, but then we will send an email to all of the primary contacts for those employers. And they will get an email that indicates to them, here's where you go to register. Here's how you can learn more about it in Compass. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll actually have the ability to register within the system. If you want to update your class list, you just go to My Class Lists. This is a class list for this particular test company. You can change names. You can disable a class or make it active. You can archive the class so that it's not in your list, but it's not deleted. And you can also download your course list if you'd like, so that you can manipulate it in a spreadsheet. And I personally find that to be a little bit easier. So here I can change names. I can add credit hours if I want. I could update local class IDs, or I could tie it to the MISO3 codes, whatever you want to do. And like I said, we have a class on that. And even if you're not doing the entire class, you can still view certain modules that goes through some of that information. Okay, I do want to touch base really quickly on work-based learning and job shadows. So I mentioned that the work-based learning work that we've been doing primarily with the work-based learning coordinators, led and program managed by Dawn Ulmer. So there's a lot of functionality that we built within work-based learning that facilitates the process. So when a company submits work-based learning, we actually approve it first. We make sure that they put it in correctly, and then you all will receive email notifications. And some of you have may notice you might be getting a lot of notifications, and maybe you don't want all those. You actually can change your notification preferences, and you can indicate whether or not you want to receive emails about work-based learning or new career profiles or events or whatever. That's up to you. We're going to be building roles into Compass so that it's more automatic. But we actually like sending more information out than less, because part of our hope is that if an employer publishes work-based learning, it's something that maybe a teacher sees, and then they can forward it on to a student. So all of that isn't just sitting on the work-based learning coordinator's shoulders. Students can apply, and you'll be able to see applications. We have agreements where you can actually create new agreements for students, for employers, for work-based learning opportunities, and for job shadows. And you can send out, you can basically do agreements where the student signs, then the parent signs, then the employer signs, and then the teacher signs, or you can send all the agreements out at the same time, and then you can basically track who has actually signed the agreement or where are they at in terms of the process. We also have time tracking and experiences that ties a little bit into the Are You Ready system, where students can basically capture that in Are You Ready, and then that information can be shared with the employer if you want. We even have ways of giving the employer the ability to approve time that the student has submitted. The last thing I want to show real quick before we talk about other pieces of this before we run out of time is the job shadow feature. And again, this was built in conjunction with Grand Forks and working with some other schools. But essentially here, what we can do is we can give the student the ability to request job shadows. So I'm going to go back to the student experience real quick and go to opportunities. And then I can click request job shadow. And that's where the student could basically say, I would like to shadow with these companies. Once they have those in, they can put in the job that they want to shadow. They can submit this. You all will receive notifications that you can then manage job shadow requests here in this screen. You can approve them, you can reject them, you can approve them on behalf of the employer, and you can also schedule them so you can know when the student is going to not be in school. And if you want, you can also do agreements related to job shadows. So if you need permission slips or if you need absentee agreements with teachers, all of that can be managed within Compass. And again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there, but if anybody wants to go into that, let me know. That functionality is now available to all of you across the state. So those are some workflow things that we are trying to help facilitate just to make it easier to manage all this stuff. But everything we do, again, is kind of in that context of driving better connections between you, the employer, the student, now colleges, and your community leaders. Are there any questions before I go back to the PowerPoint and I kind of wrap up the presentation? Any questions yet? Okay. I'm going to provide you some very basic use cases. So sometimes when we train on this, it's like we throw a lot of information at you, but it's like, how do you really use this day to day? So here on the screen are just some ideas that we've had about things we know you all are doing and how you can help or how Compass can help you with that. So the very first bullet, a lot of you have advisory groups where you're asking employers to help you understand what should I be teaching or what are the trends in your industry. A lot of that information we capture in the career profile. So if you want, share that career profile with a teacher to help them understand what are the skills employers are asking for. You could even do things like diesel technician. How is it different if you're working for a company like Butler versus RDO versus General Equipment versus Wallwork versus whoever? Those are interesting opportunities to give teachers content that they might be able to use with their students. Some of you have students find their own job shadows and manage them. So the student can go into the employer section, filter on the employers that are offering job shadow as an option, and they can contact them or they can add them to their job shadow request and submit them and get them to you. One thing we're really trying to do is how do we help students learn about companies before and after events? So if you have a career fair or a T4 event or something, encourage the students to look at those employers in Compass before the event and learn something about them. They might then have a good question to wow the socks off of like whoever it is from that company that's at that event. And then the student can also follow up after the event and maybe sign up for a job shadow or work-based learning opportunity. And we are really trying to help employers think about that before you go to an event. Get your stuff updated, maybe offer a work-based learning opportunity, and then tell the students at that event, okay, when you get back to your classroom, sign up for our internship. You seem awesome. We'd love to have you. Or sign up for a job shadow. We'd love to have you come out and visit with us. So those are some really cool opportunities too. Um, Publish your events to drive awareness with employers. We are hearing from employers a lot that they don't always know when there are events that they would love to come to. So if you can get your events into Compass, we actually will have a master list of opportunities that we will share with students and employers so that they know what's happening and they can find links, they can see information about what the event is, who's hosting it. We're going to actually make that available to you all because we've also heard that sometimes uh, you might not know that another school is doing a career fair at the same time. So how do we help you? How do we help avoid that a little bit? I think there's actually an event at UND, at NDSU, and actually at the Grand Forks Career Impact Academy on February 4th, the same day. And I'm sure a lot of companies would love to be at all of those events. So how do we help drive awareness of that and maybe facilitate some scheduling across regions or school districts? And then finally, one of the biggest ones is like helping students find companies that will help them pay for tuition. We have a lot of companies that are willing to do that. So by having career profiles encompass with sponsorship as the option, students can quickly find the companies that are willing to do that. Or they might find the college program that they really like, and then who are the companies that are willing to help me pay for that program cost. So we'll share this again with you all, but these are some real things that you can use that we're trying to basically use our data and our processes to help make your life easier. We also have a lot of resources available. So in the Pro Center, if you go to resources and then Compass, you will see PowerPoint slides, flyers, event links, YouTube links, all sorts of things that we're trying to give you so that we can make your life easier, whether you're talking to employers, you're talking to students, giving them videos on how to fill out the profile. Some of you don't have time for students to fill out the profile, so we put together a video that you can send to students and have them do it on their own so that you don't have to worry about it. We do have a monthly newsletter that we send out. I think most of you receive that, but in there we also will do feature updates. We'll do success stories. A lot of you have been featured in some of those success stories. I think we're actually talking about one tomorrow during a Greater North Dakota Chamber event with All True in the Grand Forks School District, which is awesome. And we are also trying to drive ways of getting awareness out to the parent. So some of you might have received emails from Amanda Peterson on my team. We're providing blurbs that you could put into newsletters on your websites. We're sending emails out to parents. Part of what we're trying to do is like, how do we help them know that these resources are there? And basically, how do we make sure that they take advantage of this? We have a lot of templates that are in Compass. You've seen us probably talk about these. All of these can be edited in Canva, so you can use them. And then we are really focusing on those partnerships. So you're going to see more information from us in Fargo-Moorhead. We're going to be partnering with the local chamber. We're having conversations, like I said, with Devil's Lake. We're doing a lot of really cool things in Watford City and Williston with the CTE centers and local employers out there. Grafton has been amazing. Grand Forks, you guys have a great relationship with your local economic development. Those are folks that are talking to employers all the time, and they're always talking about workforce. So how do we make sure that those employers, rather than just saying workforce is an issue, how do we really get them to actually do something about it, get signed up, like offer work-based learning experiences? A lot of companies might be hesitant to do that, or they might think that those students aren't going to be good. They're not going to be safe. There's going to be insurance risks. There are great statewide partnerships that Laura and Dawn and Wade Sick have driven with WSI, with Job Service. There really is no reason why a company can't do something if they're willing to. And part of our job, I think, is to how do we make sure that they see the value in doing that and getting connected and doing all the things that we've just talked about here. So with that, I wanted to have a few minutes left for any questions, or if anybody wants to dive into anything in a little bit more detail. We are planning on doing some separate virtual sessions just on the work-based learning agreement process or just on the job shadow process. Those are relatively new things. We do want to get feedback from you. So if any of you want to join and give us a little bit of feedback or review what we've built and give us suggestions, we'd love that. I also want to challenge you. We want to do the same thing with students. So we are looking to build a group of students, student advisors, or whatever you want to call them, maybe 5 to 10 people across the state that we can connect with. We can get them on a call and we can show them some things and see if we're giving them the information that they want and that they will find useful. And also, how do we make the system easier to use and more engaging? I've been noodling a little bit. It's my favorite word, noodling. But how do we give students even more tips and tricks around some of this stuff? A lot of you have been working on career ready practices or preparation for like interview practice and different things like that. How do we help those things be more accessible to students? How do we help them find that? How do we help them understand all that great stuff that you all are driving? And can that even be things that we could give them contextually? So if a student is getting ready for a work-based learning interview with True North equipment, are there ways that we can actually give them some tips on how to dress or what questions you might want get asked or things that you might want to highlight for that opportunity that might be different than going and having an interview at Flint Communications or a marketing agency or whatever. So those are some of the things that we're working on. But that feedback is so important. So please send it to us. We want to make sure that this is easy to use and valuable for you. And the more usage that we get, the more value that everyone gets, including CTE, DPI, North Dakota University System, hopefully you all, and also our local employers and our local communities. So with that, I will turn it back over to Laura and
All right.
we'll wrap up.
Well, I didn't see anyone that added any questions to the chat. If you do have a question you'd like to ask out loud, it's your last chance because we're about to wrap up. If you noticed, I dropped into the chat that our next virtual workshop is going to be on methodized ACT test prep. So watch for an announcement on the Career Resource Network listserv for the opportunity to register for January 13th at 3 p.m. Central Time workshop specifically on ACT test prep in Methodize. And then in the future, there'll be something on an upcoming feature that is coming to RUReady.ND.gov, which is Lexile and Quantile information and how it is connected to occupations, and then something on reports in RUReady.ND.gov. So anytime you have a question about Compass, RUReady.ND.gov, or any of the other products that are integrated, you can ask me. I can determine if it's something that I can answer, if we need to forward it to Patrick, or you're welcome to contact Patrick directly on anything related specifically to Compass. Thank you all for participating today. Thank you, Patrick, for your time and presenting all this great information. And I'm always excited about all the new things that you have been noodling on, as you say, because there's just always great things being added to Compass. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and stay safe. I think there's a storm coming.
Bye-bye,
Have a
everybody.
great day.